Millions of lives are saved each year as a consequence. 25 years of building investments in climate resilience and adaptation, changes in agricultural practices, and harnessing nature have blunted the damage to people and property from the extremes of climate events. You don't need to be a fortune teller to see that the multi-decade decarbonization journey will be among the greatest global economic transformations of our age. In full flight, it will be comparable in scope to the Industrial Revolution or the advent of the digital economy, meaning it's also among the greatest commercial opportunities of our age. And if we get the transformation right, it will be the advent of profound societal changes and real-world benefits for the 9.7 billion people expected on our planet in 2050. I want to make one thing clear. This vision is not bright-eyed wishful thinking. It is reflected across the full gamut of the Paris Agreement, and agreements negotiated line by line, word by word, comma by comma, at subsequent UN climate conferences. It is neither utopian nor dystopian. It is utilitarian, pragmatic, and achievable based on existing but not yet fully scaled technologies and implemented policies. So let's work our way backwards. We're now in January 2030. The country progress reports, formerly referred to as biennial transparency reports, show global emissions have been reduced by 43% by 2030. They also show the emission curves can be bent further downwards where gaps remain in implementation, particularly if support continues to ramp up. Renewable energy is abundant and affordable, including in developing countries, delivering fully on the COP28 agreement to triple renewable energy. Record investments are going into national and regional grids and demand-side solutions to drive investment certainty. A fair price on carbon, traded globally with integrity, is further driving investments towards renewables, supercharging innovation. We've broken the investment cycle in fossil fuels. Economies have diversified. Their individual pathways away from fossil fuel production are creating more jobs, stronger supply chains, and more stable economic growth. Methane emissions are negligible through simple but rapid action across all industries. Billions more people have the practical tools to adapt and withstand climate impacts. Early warning systems have covered all people on Earth since 2027. The Loss and Damage Fund is rapidly responding where losses and damages are occurring, demonstrating that innovative approaches such as the Transitional Committee, established by UN climate change after COP27, can yield real-world results. Now move your imagination with me to the closing plenary of COP30 in Belém, Brazil, where we celebrate having secured Mission 1.5. Earlier in the year, all countries put forward a new national climate plan. These nationally determined contributions, or NDC's version 3.0, are markedly different from those that went before. For starters, their pledges are 1.5 aligned. They cover every greenhouse gas, and they lay out how each sector of the economy will transition. Secondly, they address how each country contributes to the outcomes of the global stocktake of 2023. The United States, China, Russia, Brazil, Indonesia, Germany, India, the United Kingdom, Japan, Canada, France, Australia, Argentina, Mexico, South Africa, Italy, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, the European Union, and Turkey as the G20, together responsible for 80% of the world's emissions in 2025, have seriously re-engineered their targets on this basis. Because they know PR spin, rebranding, or tinkering around the edges won't cut it to meet their climate responsibilities. And it will also leave them badly behind the innovation curve, not at the cutting edge. These national climate plans aren't just pieces of paper. They must be backed by robust policy instruments, costed out, and translatable into shovel-ready investment opportunities. Every country has also delivered a national adaptation plan. Simply speaking, a resilience plan for each country to protect its people, their livelihoods, and nature from spiraling climate impacts. Countries are embarking on climate-resilient development. During 2025, UN Climate Change has produced a report synthesizing the biennial transparency report submitted before the end of 2024. This report is a significant milestone, the first progress report from countries on their implementation of the Paris Agreement since its adoption 9 years previous. It demonstrates that the implementation gap is just as important as the ambition gap and shows a critical role of international cooperation in closing it. So countries responded by overhauling their standard operating procedures. Bold climate action must be mainstreamed across all functions of government and all aspects of business and investment, with public and private sectors working in concert together with communities and experts, leaving no one behind. We see the just transition moving from concept to lived reality for real people everywhere. Now, take a mental walk with me a few miles down the road here in Baku to COP29 in November, a critical enabling COP in the climate ambition cycle. What must we do this year to ensure the world's shared goals remain within reach? We must spend the year working collectively to evolve our global financial system so it's fit for purpose, with a clear plan to meaningfully execute the climate transition. Looking at the numbers, it's clear that to achieve this transition, we need money and lots of it. $2.4 trillion, if not more. 2.4 trillion is what the high-level expert group on climate finance estimates is needed every year to invest in renewable energy, adaptation, and other climate-related issues in developing countries, excluding China. Whether on slashing emissions or building climate resilience, it's already blazingly obvious that finance is the make or break factor in the world's climate fight, in quantity, quality, and in innovation. In fact, without far more finance, 2023's climate wins will quickly fizzle away into more empty promises. We need torrents, not trickles, of climate finance. The new collective quantified goal on climate finance must be agreed. Countries must be confident that they will be able to rapidly access sufficient concessional support. With finance, as with other commitments, transparency is essential for building trust, delivering impact, and therefore forging more ambitious commitments. Climate finance must not be quietly pilfering from aid budgets. And it must be designed to be leveraged, driving and protecting development gains, whilst delivering concrete implementation of climate action. In parallel, clear progress must be made to address the assessment of investment risk, the allocation of special drawing rights, innovative sources of financing from sectors, and creative mechanisms to tackle unreasonable debt burdens. 2024 is the year multilateral development banks must demonstrate, with concrete actions, their centrality in the world's climate fight and their determination to deliver impact at scale. They should take bold steps towards financial innovation that will double, if not triple, their collective financial capacity by 2030, particularly with respect to grants and concessional finance. Furthermore, they should commit to leveraging their engagement with the private sector to double and triple the overall rate of private capital mobilization. So this brings me to today. I stand before you what is estimated to now be above 1.1 degrees of warming, coming out of the hottest year on record by a huge margin. It will take an Olympian effort over the next 2 years to put us on track to where we need to be in 2030 and in 2050. In fact, the action we take in the next 2 years will shape how much climate-driven destruction we can avoid over the next 2 decades and far beyond. The Olympic motto, faster, higher, stronger, should be our shared climate mantra. UN climate change will be stepping up to help coordinate the support available for countries to build the capacity needed to deliver NDCs, NAPs, and BTRs, working with all of those active in this space. We've already proven we can meet the challenge ahead, having bent the curve of expected global temperature rise from nearly 5 degrees to 3, closer to 2.5 through UN-convened global cooperation. Whilst last year's agreement on the global stocktake at COP28 was far from perfect, it would have been unthinkable just a few years ago and sends a very strong signal about the inevitability of global decarbonization. But now is no time for victory laps. It's time to get on with the job. Likewise, hiding behind loopholes in decision texts or dodging the hard work ahead through selective interpretation will be entirely self-defeating for any government as climate impacts hammer every country's economy and population. To citizens around the world, I say directly, we need you. Your voices demanding bolder climate actions now need to be heard clearly by your representatives. At UN Climate Change, we will not rest in pushing for the highest ambition in accordance with the science, working side by side with all governments, businesses, and community leaders. Which brings me back to the extinction in 2050 I mentioned at the start of this lecture. Having completed its core mission, that is the extinction of UN climate change as we currently know it. In a functioning era of implementation, I can foresee our organization existing only as a data repository, accurately reflecting the numbers as countries deliver on their commitments in line with the already agreed global targets. It's my earnest hope that by 2050, this organization will be rendered redundant in a net zero, climate resilient global economy. Consigned to a place in the history books, a chapter about humanity saved itself and its only home. I thank you.